Well, hello, this is Colonel Braxton Beauregard Burlique the Fifth, adventurer, treasure hunter, swashbuckler extraordinaire, at your service, madam. Well, tonight's topic, I've decided I'm going to review a book. And I'm here in my little home casino type situation. I have the roulette wheel up there. You can see that. I have, the blackjack table over there, for the roulette, and then we got the craps. Here's the craps here, and we're well stocked with the chips, and of course some fine whiskey, of which I'm going to enjoy some of this as we're talking here. I have some of this in my Southern Comfort, little tiny oversized shot glass. My goblets, that girl that I have, looking after things here, she's just not up to the task. She has other attributes that perhaps I'll discuss at another time, but her housekeeping skills, well, they leave a lot to be desired. But anyway, the topic here tonight, we're going to review this book here. It's called The Good Wife Guide. Now, Good Wife Guide, I thought for this, going through this, I'd lay this here on the gaming table and put my drink. If you don't mind, I'm going to, indulge myself a bit. Oh, wow. Yes, that's very good. Now, as you can see, the book is called The Good Wife Guide, the 19 Rules for Keeping a Happy Husband. They claim be the wife he needs. Be all the wife he needs, meaning they're going to give you all the advice to make you all the wife that he would need. Now, I'm going to cover in my other course, how to pick up women, which I'm going to be producing here shortly. We're going to talk about how, as a suitor, would-be suitor, how you can find yourself a good wife, or perhaps girlfriend, or simply a consort, if you would. But here we show the cover on this book shows she's not too bad. I mean, she's a presentable brunette. At least she's made up. She has the lipstick, looks like some sort of eyeshadow. She did groom her hair, and as you see, she's in a traditional, nice outfit for what you'd want in a house, a wife. So we're going to turn the page here. And you can see this particular book. It's from Ladies Homemaker Monthly by the Cedar Mill Press. Book publishers at Kenny Bunkport, Maine. I think that's where the Bushes hang out. But we'll turn to the next page here. And as you can see, they talk about a wife's duty, and they're saying here a man's home is his castle, and as such he ought to be treated like a king. I quite agree. When he returns home from a demanding 8 hours on the job or more, he rightfully deserves a bit of pampering. It's every wife's responsibility to dote, upon her hard-working spouse to show he is truly appreciated. I concur. After a hard day's work. Now, granted, you could be part of one of these new 21st century type families where, the wife, she's working a job and that, and, I understand that, and, that's something that perhaps you could work out. But if we're dealing with a traditional situation where perhaps the wife isn't working, full schedule here we have the husband, he's there, with the wife. He had come home from home, and she's in her traditional housekeeping garb. She's making the dinner up, and after you worked a hard day, you certainly want the dinner. But she also should be very friendly. She has a smile on her face, and that's good, because you want a friendly environment when you come home after battling the world for a living. And I can tell you that. So, yes, you should, have the meal. And some would say, well, Colonel Burlique, you're kind of old-fashioned. But, some things are timeless classics. And, yes, if the wife works, and, I will say this, if you're a house husband and the wife's working, you could be the one holding that skillet there, and she could be coming up to you. We're all wearing the apron. You know, if she makes enough money, well, who can argue with that? But you don't want to be too dependent. You know, you want to have your independence. But anyway, we're going to move on to the next page here. So, rule number 2, a recipe for success. Now, here we have, you know, this looks like a 1920s, early 30s type picture. She's pulling out a nice, you know, some sort of turkey or rump roast or something or other. And they're saying a recipe for success here in rule 2. And just as they put it, just as it would be unthinkable to serve frozen TV dinners or reheated leftovers to an honored guest, these offerings should not be considered acceptable dinner fare for the man you adore. Give him a hearty home-cooked meal, one that's prepared from scratch and seasoned with love. The hours you spend over a hot stove will be repaid in full when he eagerly asks for seconds. Well, I will say that yes, a good meal certainly would help a marriage, although that's not going to be enough. You need more than just good food. You know, you're going to need, which I'm probably going to get into, you're going to need yourself a clean house, of course. And like I said, the old colonel, why, he's not adverse to a working woman if she's making some good money. Well, certainly that is a welcome additional benefit of the marriage, and who's going to complain? But yes, a good meal, whether she can make it or she can, you know, go and get you some good grub, well, yes, you know, that would be good. Oh, now here's the next one. This is their rule 3. You know, put your best face forward. And it says here, before he arrives home from work, take a few minutes to transform yourself from toiling housewife to vision of earthly delight. You know, we're talking some, you know, real earthly delight. And give your hair an extra shellacking of hairspray. Reapply your makeup and trade in your house coat for a stylish frock that shows off your figure. And yes, you know, people can say what they want, but you certainly want to, you know, make yourself the most presentable. Just because you got the ring, some would say, through his nose, does not mean that, you know, it's a sealed deal and that it's permanent. You always have to keep the interest of the other spouse. You want to be presentable. You don't want them one day they're laying in bed, they look over, or they're looking, they're in the breakfast nook and they're looking over and they go, oh my God, what the hell have I done? This isn't the girl that I married. This isn't the vision of beauty that enthralled and enticed me to tie the knot and put all this, and I'm talking a lot of money, into a relationship. Which I'll talk in the future about. You should have a good prenuptial agreement, no matter how good things might turn out. But anyway, you certainly, you want to make yourself the most presentable you can so that you're going to continue the interest of the other significant other. You don't want them to be laying in bed, they look over and they go, look at that big fat slob. She looks even worse without her makeup. You know, the only way that would work is maybe he has a fat fetish, but generally, I just don't think that's gonna, you know, carry the day, that philosophy. But anyway, we're moving on to the next rule here. Ah, yes, rule 4, cleanliness. It's next to godliness. Now, it says here, make sure the house is spotless before he's due to arrive home. Give the furniture a quick dusting. Pick up any wayward toys and make sure all unsightly laundry and ironing has been put away. Your house should be sparkling by the time he sets foot in it. Now, that's quite true. You want to keep the house looking clean. You know, you want to make yourself spiffy and clean too. You don't want to provide a very untidy environment. That's just not going to go well for you. There's going to be problems. And that's my opinion. You know, you've got to have a clean place. And I'm not saying he shouldn't help you clean it up. He made part of the mess. And, you know, certainly he could help out somewhat. But, you know, if you aren't working and he is, then, well, you know, you should shoulder more of the burden. I know some people say, Colonel Burlique, you're some sort of a misogynist. And that's not true. I'm a very liberal, you know, free-styling sort of fella. But always fair is fair. So let's move on to the next rule here. Yes, a happy homecoming is their rule 5. It says here, when your husband walks through the front door, take his coat and guide him to his favorite easy chair. Offer him the evening newspaper, his slippers, and a dry martini to take the edge off. If he appears fatigued or cranky from his traffic-laden commute, a relaxing foot rub or shoulder massage may be in order. Now here we see this boy. He's got his smoking type jacket robe on. He's got the latest paper. He's got his pipe. And, he's there by the fireplace in a comfortable chair. And, that's what you should have, a reward at the end of a long, hard day. And the martini is a great idea. I think that offering the martini and, a nice massage would be good. And, you know what? If you play your cards right, he might give you one. So, yes, definitely Rule 5 is a good one. You should have a happy homecoming. So here we are, Rule 6. Of course, greet him with a smile. You should. That's okay, but the hands up there, that's kind of like, oh my God, he's here. I mean, how are you going to interpret that? I think just standing there, don't put your hands in your head in your hands. I think you need to be just standing there smiling. That sort of thing there, it's like, well, what? Like, oh my God, he's home? Like, that could be interpreted, several different ways. But anyway, greeting with a smile, and it says here, nothing says welcome home, dear, better than an ear-to-ear expression of your love. That's right, a smile. With just one glance at your face, your husband should know that his very presence marks the pinnacle of your day. You want to make his day like, oh my God, I couldn't live without you. You're here home. And, I'm not just content to spend your money. I actually am happy to spend time with you. I think that is an important type impression you want to give to your husband. Or perhaps, if you're a house type, husband type guy, you're going to want to do that to your working wife. Colonel is very equal opportunity here. So, oh my goodness. Looks like we got some trouble here, boy. She doesn't look very happy. We have Rule 7 here, prepare for contingencies. It's normal, as it says here, for 9 holes of golf to turn into 18, or for a meeting at work to run long. But if your husband forgets to call and tell you when he's going to be late, don't make him feel even worse by giving him a hard time about it. After all, only an elephant never forgets. Well, I'd say this. If he has a legitimate excuse, he's trying to prepare to provide for your well-being. And if you think that's going to be a problem, you have to have a attitude readjustment. You're going to have to realize the boy's working hard. Now listen. Now I understand that if you went and you found a pair of women's lingerie in the car or in his pocket, and it's not yours, then, I can understand that maybe you would be a little upset. But, if he's just late and he has a bona fide excuse, I think you should give him the benefit of the doubt in any sort of situation. Anyway, we'll go to the next rule here. Oh, yes, Rule 8 at the dinner table. Here we're seeing she's serving him a nice, what is that? Oh, it's a biscuit. Yes, if it's a nice southern biscuit, then yes, that's something to smile about. But it says here at the dinner table, anticipating your spouse's needs by refilling his plate before he asks. When it comes to your own plate, remember that less is more. Certainly the moist layer cake with buttercream frosting you baked this morning looks appetizing, but it won't do your waistline any favors. And in this age of the supersize this and one for the price, two for the price of one, the BOGO type situation, the supersized cheeseburger and the supersized drink, that's, a lot of that's lost in the shuffle, and we have a lot of big people, and you can say what you want, but that's just not, you want to look svelte, you want to look in shape, you want to look your best, and you don't want to turn into some big fat slob shuffling along with I know I have a cane, but, I'm an old man, what do you expect? But you don't want to be, some big lard ass, and How do you think the husband's you think he's gonna stick around if he's still, the only way you could get away with it would be if you turned him into a big, fat, unattractive slob and he had no other options. As one of my friends said, that, a man's fidelity is only limited by his options. And, if he was some big fat slob, very unattractive, of course, he's likely to be more, loyal and stick to his fidelity to his marriage than perhaps some guy who was, in shape, thin, and looked his best. But you should, to keep your husband, you're going to have to try to look good, and you're going to have to eat sensibly and not have that moist layer cake with the buttercream frosting. So the next rule they have here is Rule 19. And Rule 19 is, honey, how was your day? And that shows that you have concern and you're looking after, these people. And it says here, no matter how trying your own day may have been, don't burden him with your trivial woes. He's had to deal with enough aggravations at work, and he depends on you to be his respite from such drudgery. If he chooses to vent about his day, on the other hand, it's your job to lend a caring, sympathetic ear. So what they say is true. You want to be a friendly person to him. You don't mind to have another drink. Oh my goodness! And we're only halfway through this. Can you believe it here? But anyway, so what they're saying here is, you should show your consideration and concern for this poor boy, and after you've made your own inquiries to how his day went and listen to his tales of woe, then perhaps you could breach some of your misgivings about what's happened during the day. But that's a very important point, showing your consideration there. Now, here we are, Rule 10, and this is very important. Be witty and conversate. With a table full of dirty dishes waiting to be scoured and stacked, your day's work is hardly ended, but that's no excuse for failing to be a lively companion. Engage your husband in stimulating conversation ranging from news of the day to world events, but don't appear too opinionated or knowledgeable about any given subject. A good wife defers to her husband on all points, intellectual or otherwise. Now, don't get me wrong. Yes, you want to be agreeable, and you have a relationship, and I would think, since you're married to the guy, that you would have a lot in common. But you don't want to be so, like, you're so against any other sort of opinion. You want to be able to open to a good discussion, and they talk about defer. Well, you can be polite. Even the colonel thinks that's a little bit maybe too much, but you want to, listen to his position and offer your own opinion, and you have a pleasant, lively discussion. Talking about the news of the day and world events to show that you do have a brain and you're not just a body, and you're providing him with more than just a physical relationship, but you're stimulating his intellect. That's always a good thing. Now, next page here. Rule 11, decisions. It says here, after toiling for his demanding employer all day, a man wants to be made to feel as though he's the boss when he crosses his own threshold. Let him dictate important matters at home, from selecting the evening's television programs to what he'd like you to serve him for his bedtime snack. Now, if you are home all day, yes, you can always, let him pick the program and, let him kind of decide on the evening schedule, unless you have some, other important thing that you can explain to him. But, you have to show consideration for the significant other. So let's move on to the next rule. Rule 12, follow his lead. Occasionally, your husband's mind may be too far preoccupied to engage in idle chit-chat. If instead of hanging on your every word, he mumbles one-word responses to your questions while perusing the newspaper or watching his favorite television program, don't take it personally. Sometimes say, I love you, meaning saying nothing at all. So what it is this, if he if he's busy, he's preoccupied, and he's really not paying attention, I agree that could be a problem for him. He's not paying enough attention to you, and you might seek, a relationship somewhere else. But, if he's reading something, you could let him, have his own private time. But I agree that, yes, definitely, that could be the beginnings of some problems there. Yes, no question. But anyway, we'll move on to the next rule. Here we have Rule 13 now. We have a hush little children, this rule's called, and they state here, children are a blessing, but they can put a tremendous strain on their father's frazzled nerves. Encourage your children to use their, quote, quiet voices, unquote, when daddy comes home, and try to minimize rambunctious behavior. The poor boy, he's worked, slaved all day, trying to pay for everything, paying for this kid's guitar lessons, his private school, all those clothes, and some of those overpriced toys. Well, the boy's going to, he's going to be under a lot of stress. And to add that, you really think after he has a headache, he worked 12 hours during the day, and this kid's screaming in his ear. They got it. You're going to have to rein them in. Let the poor boy, their daddy, have a rest. But anyway, we're going to move on, actually. Rule 14 here. Now, we have here the Mother's Day never ends. Once dinner ends and the kitchen has been cleaned, usher your wee darlings upstairs for a bath and bedtime. Your spouse will be grateful for a bit of solitude as you tend to the little ones in an efficient, orderly fashion. And that's true there. You want to take care of the little ones, and get them taken care of, put them to bed, and add to the quiet time for Big Daddy. After all, he's been wearing the Big Daddy pants, and he deserves a good rest, especially if that's a weekday. He doesn't even have the weekend to recuperate. Unless he works on the weekend, he wouldn't have that either. So then the next rule is Rule 15 in this here book. Spread gladness, not badness. When possibly, try to spare your husband from the nuisance of life's little troubles. Now is not the time to present him with a stack of bills, or the fact that little Jimmy flunked his spelling test. If you can handle such crises without having to needlessly bother your husband, you'll leave him available to deal with more important matters. Now, I will say this. One thing I will tell you, and this is more for the benefit of the husband than the wife, I would not recommend that you put wife in charge of the budget, because unlike her, she's smiling. I bet you that budget is not going to be balanced. She's going to spend all the money, run up all these credit cards behind your back, and before you know it, you're over $100,000 in the hole, and either she's going to be complaining to you, you're not working hard enough, or maybe she might even try to dump you at some point, try to get yourself some support, and try to stick you with all the bills. So you definitely want to keep a close rein on the budget and the bills and what's going on financially. Don't make the mistake of putting her in charge. And if you're the wife and you do assume that function, you better be very careful, because if you put the boy in a bad spot, that's not going to bode well for either of you, including the marriage. So anyway, we're going to move on here. Now, the other thing too on this is, if she were to part ways and divorce the fella, you're going to understand, no matter how much she hoses him on the support for the child and herself, she's still not going to have the same standard of living unless she finds herself another sugar daddy who's going to pick up the slack. And, depending on how her age and how she looks, her marketability it's not going to be as good as when she, hooked up with Big Daddy here. But that's just another little Burlique'S, tip I'm giving here. So, the next part, let's see. We skipped one, didn't we? Oh, yes, we did. Rule 16. Sing his praises. A few well-placed compliments are certain to garner your husband's favor. Tell him he, quote, cuts a fine figure, unquote, quote, in his dapper work does, or marvel at his business acumen when he relays a story from the office. His ego will appreciate the boost and may even put him in the mood for romance. Well, yes, you can be very complimentary, but you don't want a situation where it's a situation where the emperor has no clothes and nobody would tell him. You do want to, if there is something he did right that looks good, you can compliment him, but don't make something up, because if you do, it's only going to make the situation worse. And the more you would compliment him and it's a worse situation, probably the worse it's going to be. So if he has a big beer belly and he's hanging out with his friends and he's spending all the money and things are falling apart, I would not you might want, some even conclude some constructive criticism, but you certainly don't want to, say nothing while the emperor wears no clothes and Rome is burning. You definitely, if there's a problem, you're only going to make it worse. So the book here, I can't necessarily agree with all of that, but you do want to be complimentary when it's appropriate. So anyway, next little rule here. Rule 17, all in a day's work. It says here, a man's needs are simple and his requests are few. In that case, it should be a pleasure, not a chore, to put his happiness ahead of your own. Don't expect special acknowledgement or words of praise for your efforts. It is your role to support him and make him feel special, not the other way around. Well, no, I can't agree with that. You do want to make him feel special and everything else, but if he wants to keep you, he's certainly going to have to cater to her. Like, now here, she's not bad looking. She's well endowed. And look, she's giving him to drink, which that's a good idea. Thank you there. Oh, yes, that's good. Anyway, he's giving it. But the thing is, if he takes her for granted and doesn't compliment her and treat her right, I can tell you that, especially, she cuts a fine figure of a woman. If he doesn't watch himself, why, he could end up that she'll be playing around with, I don't know, who knows, perhaps another, a father at the PTA meeting, or if she's out shopping, she bumps into some neighbor, and before you know it, you come home early, and before you know it, you see this guy running out your back door, and half his clothes are laying in your bedroom, and your wife, she's been disrobed, and it could be a very nasty situation. So I can't quite agree with them on that. You're going to have to, yes, she can try to support you and be nice, but you're going to have to reciprocate, especially if she has a body like that, because there's going to be some problems at home if you don't. So anyway, now rule 18, between the sheets. When your darling man, look at this, it looks like an early Playboy bunny type situation here. It says here, when your darling man suggests that you, quote, slip into something a little more comfortable, unquote, he's not referring to your ankle-length flannel nightgown. Entice him into the bedroom by foregoing your cold cream and curlers in favor of a seductive negligee. Be a tantalizing temptress in these few short minutes before your husband falls asleep. Once he's out like a light, you can steal a few more, quote, homework, unquote, minutes, rolling out the dough for tomorrow morning's light and flaky Danish. Then it's off to bed for you, too. After all, you'll have to rise early to make sure he awakens to the smell of percolating coffee. Or, an Irish coffee, but yes, you certainly would show consideration. Now, this gal, she has the right idea. She's into some sort of perhaps a role-playing type situation where she's the rabbit and he's the, some sort of a hunting dog type. I don't know. That's between her and her husband. But certainly if you're going to keep your man, you're going to have to accommodate him. Now, granted, if he's the Marquis de Sade and he's acting crazy and all kinds of weird things, then maybe you better reassess the entire relationship. But that's one of the considerations. But anyway, here we are. The last rule, Rule 19, a job well done. It says here at the end of each day, survey your home and family and ask yourself one important question. Have I inspired domestic tranquility? With a little extra elbow grease and a can-do attitude, you too can answer each and every day with a resounding yes. And there she is. Look at that. She's very satisfied. She's keeping her man, and her friends, they're not getting their hooks into him, and she's the only one spending his money, and she's very happy with that. And we can only hope that lasts, because if he has a good job and she can't do any better, then that's going to be a keeper for her, and she'll have financial security the rest of her life. So that's the book here, and they go over different things here, and I don't know. The book here, I found it, they had some evident truths, but there were some things that I didn't quite agree with. But I hope going through these rules that I gave you sort of a guide that might save your marriage or your relationship. It might save you a lot of money and a lot of grief, and it might provide you with years and years of happiness. And that's all that the old colonel, that I'm looking for, is to try to help you with your life. And and if your marriage, it works out fine. If not, there'll be other videos that show you back out in the market. Life's a gamble, and we're out there looking and spending money and whoring and looking around, and perhaps you could find something better. And as for the wife, the same thing could apply to you, that perhaps you could do better. And you'll be out there now. Granted, the show's more geared toward the men, but I offer some advice to women, and help all the relationships, because that's the kind of guy I am. But I hope you all enjoyed the presentation here, and I hope to have some other videos up real soon. And this is Colonel Braxton Beauregard Burlique the Fifth, adventurer, treasure hunter, swashbuckler extraordinaire, at your service, signing off and saying bye, y'all.